All right, hello again, everyone. This is Jeff Scott from Jeff Teaches Programming, and in the last video, I began working on the Payroll Console version 3. And let me show you what I found out. First of all, let's talk about the errors I had in the program. All right, I was saying error message instead of saying plus equal message, I was saying plus equal OK. And that is why I was getting the false and false type of thing in there. Second, at the bottom where I came in here and was doing the is within range that you see right here, all right, if it wasn't valid, we wanted to print out the errors, but then I wanted to continue, which meant it would have jumped back up to the top and it wouldn't have returned. Now, I've also got in here and is valid, and where I'm doing the same thing, and I guess playing around with this a little. There we go. Okay, so let's take a look at how this has changed. So let me save it. Let me run it. So now again, the only thing we've got working correctly right now that is implementing our new validation both is number 1 and the hourly rate. So if I leave it blank, illegal input, please try again. Notice it's asking for it again. So if I put in hello, I'm getting illegal input. Now this is version 3. I don't know why we're getting that, but I am. All right, let's put in something out of range. We're still getting illegal input every time. I want to make sure I'm running the right program. All right, let's try it one more time here. 1, nothing. There you go. Errors found. Hours worked cannot be empty. Hours worked must be a valid decimal. Okay, let's try it again. We'll put in hello. Errors found. Hours worked must be a valid decimal because it wasn't empty. Let's put in something that's out of range. Errors found. Hours worked must be between 0 and 84. Let's put again another thing, same thing. All right, I don't care right now about and it is still asking for hours worked, which isn't right. Oh, it is right. So if I come in here and put in a valid hours worked, so let's say 40, boom, now it asks for the hourly rate. All right, so we've got that working. That's good. That's a good start. Now, there's 2 things I can do here, because now we want to do the is valid hourly rate. All right, let's see how much of this we can save from last time and how much of it basically we have to redo. Okay, so in other words, what we have in here for our hourly rate is going to be in many ways very similar to what we just did for our hours worked. So, all right, let's come in here and let's keep the rate string and let's get rid of everything else. Maybe this isn't the best way to do it. All right, you could make your case and say, wow, you know, what you're doing is just totally ignorant. You know, in some ways it probably is. All right, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to grab every bit, almost, of what I have here. All right, so let me grab first the error message and the is valid, and we'll put that at the top. All right, now we're not going to have the write and the read line that we had before. Don't worry, we're going to fix this in just a second. All right. But what we want to do now in here is basically grab everything that we had, and we want to change. We're going to get an error when we put this in, 1 or more errors, and it's totally fine, because we want to be working with rate. we don't want to be working with hours. But the idea, again, is the same as it was before. We get any errors, we'll fix them right away. There's rate string. So rate str, and we'll put down hourly rate here. All right, and now that's done. Rate str and hourly rate here. All right, and again, rate str, we don't want to put it into hours, we want to put it into rate. All right, so again, rate str, hourly rate, and min h rate, and max h rate. All right, now we want to come in here and return rate. Now it looks like I may have somehow missed something in here, so let's see. Yep, I have removed a curly brace. There you go. So what I've done is I've changed in here every instance of hours worked to hourly rate. You may have already noticed that we're starting to duplicate a lot of code, and we're going to work on that in iteration 4. But now again, I've got error message. I've got, valid being true. Rate string is the read line. Please enter it. Notice we have now used min rate and max rate. We also said this. In fact, let's just leave it. It'll say it'll be currency, but let's just remove that. Might be easier to read like this. All right. All right. Add a tuple. Okay. Now the other thing we're going to have to make sure we do in here is, again, convert this, because minimum rate is 0.00. Now it's just 0. Maximum rate is 99.99. That's going to be a problem. $99.99. All right. Well, how do we fix that? There's different ways that we can fix it. For now, let's just leave it the way it is. All right. So File. Try it again. File. Save all. All right. Let's run it again and see if we broke anything or if it seems to be working. Now, I'm not going to go back and redo the errors for hours worked because we've already done those. So let's try 50 here. Now for hourly rate, let's leave it blank. All right, hourly rate cannot be empty. Hourly rate must be a valid decimal. Good start. Hello. Hourly rate must be a valid decimal. Let's put it out of range. Hourly rate must be between 0 and 99. All right. And let's make something bigger. Same thing. And if we do put in here 20, it works. All right, now let's talk about how we can fix this. All right. What we're going to do is we're going to say, for now at least, let's see, we'll leave it like this. And when we have our check, we could go back into here and change that All right, since this is decimal, it shouldn't be a double. That should be, oh, we got that. There it is. See, the problem is still the is within range function. So we could have an is within range, and we could have two of them. We could have an is within range int and an is within range decimal. For now, what I'm going to do, maybe I'm going to cheese out a little bit for lack of better words, but I'm going to come back to our program and I'm going to change this so that our hourly rate, the maximum, instead of having it be $99.99, I'm going to make it 100. Okay? Now, again, there's a lot of ways we could have handled that. All right, I could have left it again, there's just a whole bunch of stuff that could have been done here. And if you don't like the way that I did that, of course, you could always change it to whatever way you thought was better. Okay? All right, so it'll be 100 now. So what we're assuming is that 100 is going to be a valid, anything, just to show you, 1, so 50. Now before it was 99.99, so notice now it'll take up to 100. So that's still considered valid. All right, so we finished that one. So that didn't take very long because it was just a bunch of copying and the like, so that's 12 minutes. So let's go on and see if we can do the next one. All right, we now, hopefully at least, in our third iteration, we have now fixed, for lack of better words, our hourly. And you notice the calculate hourly pay works just fine. So we have finished those. All right, we've got that done. So maybe in here we can now go in and do the same kind of thing for our piecework. All right, so for piecework, that's going to be under piecework. And under piecework, we've got input valid pieces made, input valid price per piece. So we've got two of them there just like we just had two. All right. So again, what I will do is I will keep all right. Sorry, I had to pause for a little bit and I'm back now. So let's go back to the program here. And again, what I've done so far is I have gone and changed the two input functions that we have, the input valid hours worked and the input valid hourly rate. And now I'm on to this one here. So I think I'm going to be able to use pretty much the same type of an idea here. So let me go in and copy as much as I can. Again, I'm not doing that to try to take anything away or have us be sloppy or whatever, but there's what you find after a while is much of what you do in programming is very repetitious in many ways. All right, so this is going to come down here, right there. All right, this will be the piecework. There we go. So I'm going to put that in first. So again, we'll have the error message to hold that and this. And just like before, what I will do is remove everything that's here. And I might as well come in and do it to the other one as well. All right, so those two have been, I've started on them. How about that? Just going to grab everything that's in here. And of course, you know as well as I do, this is going to give me some errors. All right, because I'm using different variables, etc., and I'm going to have to go back and make changes. Okay, so let's see. But we'll change it all. All right. I thought I put that in there. Oh, that's the second one. So this is price per piece. So let's take all that for now, and let's comment that out. Then we'll go back to the one we meant to put it in, which is right here. All right. And again, there will be errors probably in here as well. Okay, so this is pieces made string. So that fixes all that. And then let's change this so instead of hourly rate, it says pieces made. All right, and now we'll copy that one over. And of course, this will have to be min pieces and max pieces. Those are already integers. All right, so let's see if we've got that one fixed with relatively few changes here. And again, we've got this. We're not returning anything right now, so that's why we're getting an error there. So let's just return 0 for now. 0M. Okay. So let's see. I'm not going to go back when I do this. We will at the end. But for now, I'm not going to test again for number 1, which was our hourly worker. Let's go to number 2 here. The only one here that we're worried about is this one, the pieces made. So if I leave it blank, pieces made cannot be empty. Pieces made must be a valid decimal. If I put in hello, pieces made must be a valid decimal. Let's put in a outer range. Pieces made must be between 0 and 100. And the same thing. So those are both working. All right. So now with this one, let's copy in what we just put in here. So we'll have to fix that return 0 that we have in here. Whoops. Let's hit this twice. Come on. There we go. All right, so don't worry about there's errors. We're going to fix those right now. We're going to come in and just like we did before, we're going to grab and create error message and is valid. It's going to remove a lot of those errors that are in there right now. Okay. All right, now we can come in here and okay, that's price per piece. So this price per piece string is what we want in here. And again, that price per piece is also is a decimal. That one's going to be a little funnier to play with. Okay, so those are fixed. Now, the problem that we're going to have here, just so you're aware of this, is by making those ints, the price has to either be 0 or it has to be 1. Okay? And we call this, that's great, we want that to be price. And where we used it here, we don't want that to be race, we want that to be piece. So now I think we are missing a curly brace. Okay. That should all be okay. This one, like I said, this would be a case where we might want to have, for our within range, we might want to either change what we had so it's all decimal, because it would still handle, that would still handle an integer, or make another one in our validate both and change the one so, you know, there'd be so many changes I'm going to have to make. So let's just keep it the way we have it right now. So I'm only going to be able to use 1 in here. All right. So 2, we already did this, but if we put in nothing, okay, if we put in non-numeric, if we put in out of range, negative or positive, that all works. So if we put in the number of pieces, let's say 50. And now, didn't like that. Nope, there's a problem with this. The first one seemed to work, but the second one did not. So this seemed to be fine. The input price per piece seemed like it was goofed up. Price per piece at max. Okay, values are going to put price per piece. We have to return it at the end, and we're not doing that right now. Right here, we called it price, but we're returning 0M. We should be returning price. All right, so let's check that one out now. And just so you see, I'm not trying to keep anything from you or not do anything that I shouldn't be doing. Let's just check everything. We've got 4 values so far that we have to check. So again, we'll do a 1, put in nothing, that works. For a 1, we'll put in non-numeric, and that works. We'll put out of range, and that works. We'll put out of range on the high end, and that works. All right. And if we do the hourly rate, if we put in nothing, that works. If we put in non-numeric, that works. If we put in out of range on the low end, that works. If we put out of range on the high end, that works. All right. So all of that stuff is working right now. Now we can go into number 2. And again, if we leave it blank, cannot be empty, must be a valid decimal. If we put in non-numeric, must be a valid decimal. If we put in out of range on the low end, must be between 0 and 100. Put it on the high end. Same thing. If we put in 75 here, now it should work. It's still not showing that. So the pieces made does not seem to be valid. So let's do that. Let's look at pieces made. Again, are we returning? What do we call this? Piece. Let's call it pieces because it's pieces made. And I don't think at the bottom we're returning pieces. Okay, so this, let's see, where are we here? That's got to be an integer that we're parsing that into, and we're probably not. That should be an int. So that should be int.parse. And that'll be okay then now. So let's try it again. We'll just do the number 2 this time. 2. Number of pieces made. If I put in nothing, it works. If I put in non-numeric, it works. Out of range, the low end, it works. Out of range on the high end, it works. If we put in something that's valid, now it asks price per piece. Now again, all I can put in right now is either 0 or 1. So let's try in here. Nothing. Price per piece cannot be empty and must be a valid decimal. All right. Okay, so that works. Now, just thinking about it real quickly here, one way that we could potentially at least fix this, okay, is we could come in and take and change our price per piece. So we've got right now the minimum price per piece is 0 and the maximum is 1. Well, what if we make the maximum, instead of 1, what if we make it 100? Now that might sound a little foolish, but let's think about why we could do that. All right? What I will do is I will come back in here then, And so it's between 1 and 100, right? Now I will take, after we parse it and we return it, when we're doing our calculation, which is, we've got in here, right there. Pieces made times price per piece. What if we do that? Pieces made, price per piece, divided by 100.0. Now, what's the problem here? Well, let's see. It's a decimal, we're returning. So what doesn't it like? How about 100M? There we go. So let's try it like that. And it's a very easy check, believe it or not. So if we put a 2 in here, and the number of pieces made, let's try 100. And let's say that they're each worth 75 cents. So we'll put in 75 here. So it should be 100 times 0.75, and it is. So that works. It was a simple fix. All right. Well, we've got that one done. Let's finish up, and let's see where we are here. Okay, I'm 31 minutes in, so what I'll do is I'll make one more lecture, and I'm going to come back in and do the last two. Now, the sales, again, should be very similar to what we've just done. All right. In fact, let me just go in and copy that into all three of these that are left. So we're going to copy that into valid percentage, commission percentage. Again, don't worry if we get any errors. We won't, but if we do. Valid sales, and for the salary. Salary's only got one thing to check. Okay? So when I come back, we'll do these last two. And then the idea is what we want to do next is to start taking some of this code that is so doggone repetitious. You'll notice that when we're done, we're going to have, we're already up to, we don't need this stuff anymore because we're grabbing those all off of the, we're grabbing all of those off of the ValidateBoth.cs file. But we're still over 700 lines, and much of it is repetitious code. I'll be back with that shortly.